Well, hello, everybody! As I'm waiting to make sure that everything is really working, I want to say hi to everybody that's out there. I see that I am on the screen and it looks like my audio is working. We will find out in a second if my audio is working when people start complaining that they see my lips move and don't hear anything. Good morning, Jackie. How are you today? You seem to be like firsties a lot in my lives. Are you just like sitting there waiting? Good morning, Katie Crafts and Bonita and Candace. Lots of folks showing up now. I hope everybody is having an awesome weekend. Percy is about to be very upset with me because he has to go to Zadok today and get a shot because he's an old cat and refuses to lose a couple pounds. His arthritis is trying to set in, so we are going for. It begins with an S. I don't remember what the shot is, but it's basically to help lubricate his joints, or maybe it's just make him not feel the pain from the joints or something like that. It lasts like 2 to 3 months, and that. So hopefully he's fine. Good morning, Colleen. Weather report from there is snow, snow, and more exclamation points. I am sorry to hear that. Our weather here is kind of weird. It's almost like Mother Nature doesn't acknowledge that she tried to kill us a couple weeks ago. It's going to be in the mid 60s today. So, yeah, it's really weird. General Beauregard Lee, the Georgia groundhog, did not see his shadow. I can't remember the time when he did see his shadow, so they're claiming an early spring for us. Jackie's listening while waiting for her daughter to call. Tell your daughter we said hi. And Candace has no kids home this weekend, so doesn't have to cook or clean up after them. Sewing all weekend is planned. That sounds like an awesome idea. So, if you remember from last week, I said I miscut my fabric for the Fort Worth Fabric Studio stuff. And I was trying to figure out, do I need more fabric or can I get away with what I have? And somehow, and I'm still not certain how because my math does not line up, I don't need to get new fabric. And I'm going to tell you, triangulations is what saved me. So, with what I had, I did have, and I'm using this with the red tossed so that you can see this. I had my standard with the blush and red, and I did this with triangulations. This piece would have worked fine with the 8 at a time method that's in the pattern. But going one further, looking at the scraps, what I've been doing is I cut my triangulations in half. And I did one half, and then I'm cutting it like right on the line, and then using an additional scrap to do the other side. And that managed to get me basically all but two, which again, the math is not working right in my head, but I'm figuring it out. And thanks to the way that Triangulations they have the standard ones, which is this printout, where you're doing basically the 2 at a time method half square triangle. They also have what they call strip triangulations, and I had leftover pink fabric from the 3.5-inch strips that I had to cut for something else in the pattern. And I managed to use the strip triangulations exactly on the lines to get my last 2 sets of triangulations or triangles that I needed. So with all of this, I've managed to recover my stuff. And like I said, I don't think I would have been able to do it if triangulations was not involved. So thank you, triangulations, for getting this exactly how I need it. I have no idea again how I did it. The math isn't there, but obviously the math is there because I did it. I tried several ways. But like I said, thankfully, because they have the strip triangulations in the pattern, which is almost like the triangles on a roll that they have for sale, I was able to get a couple extra pieces out there that I did not anticipate being able to get. Jackie says it's 48 in Phoenix today. My computer says it's 50 here right now. Gonna get up there a little bit, like I said, mid 60s, I think. Um, Candace says, we'll go from cold to hot and humid overnight here in Georgia. That is definitely true. Yeah, Georgia, weird. Cynthia says, good morning, sunny in Baldwin, Baldwin, New York. Watch me on Sean, and now I may give me a thumbs up. Well, thank you. Good morning, Charlotte. I heard that Charlotte is a new convert to triangulations. Like I said, I've used triangulations anytime I can, anytime that a pattern basically does the slightly oversized and then trim it up. I will even print a single page of triangulations just to do a pair of half square triangles if the pattern does it. With our Saturday samplers from our local quilt shop, they do a lot of half square triangle pieces, and sometimes it's a pair of half square triangles or two pairs of half square triangles. I will print out an entire page because printer paper is dirt cheap. Newsprint. I just bought some to go into the new printer, and I think it was like $5 for a ream. So that's basically a penny a page. And then I bought and it's just like I said, it's minor waste. I can throw everything in the recycle bin. I don't feel bad. It is wasting a little bit of toner, but it's little bits of toners. Uh, Katie Kraft says it's 37 and raining in Denver. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ping a friend of mine who currently is in the Denver area and let him know that he's happy because it's raining. Good morning, Shannon of Slay Arts. Shannon has a really awesome channel, and she is hosting the carnival sew along this evening on her channel. It's normally on Stephanie's, but Stephanie is on vacation. So awesome for her. Charlotte is addicted to triangulations. There's no 12-step program for triangulations, just to let you know. Snowy days are perfect for hand sewing binding. Yeah, I'm sure because you're underneath the quilt. So let me switch cameras to this camera. And then I can give you like a little bit of a close-up comparison of the two. So if you look at this one, which is the strip triangulations, it is shaped slightly different than the standard triangulations. So if I line them up side by side, you can see that the strip one, if I can get it lined up exactly, the strip one is just a hair longer. I'm trying to look at the angles. It's just a hair longer when I get them lined up. There, that's better lined up. So you see it's longer, and that's because you've got to make up for that 1/4 inch in there. It's interesting. It's weird. But the strip triangulations are exactly the 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 to get the 3-inch finished. Or maybe this was 3 inches. I've already lost the math. It's 3-inch finished size. I just can't remember what the width is, which is one of these cuts, which was either 3 or 3.5. And I don't remember what the cut was. And my cutting, what did my cutting paper say? It was 3.5. So I guess that's how they did it. They did it a little weird. Oh, yes, because 3.5 cut is 3-inch finished. Doy. Sherry is de-lurking to say she loves triangulations. Nice. Oh yeah, the flying geese. Hourglass is great too. I love when people de-lurk. Lurking is fine. So I figured while we were on this, I would do more triangulations because that's how these blocks are done. The pattern says to do them 8 at a time, drawing the line corner to corner on both ways and sewing on each side of the line to give you an X. And then you cut in half both ways and then around the diagonals. But because this diamond is basically an X shifted, and I have enough room to do the same thing, I'm doing it through triangulations because that's just slightly easier. Good morning, Guys Craft 2. How are you today? John and Curtis. They did a live on Friday, which I was able to catch a few minutes of before my boss had to call me and yell at me for something that I still didn't do wrong. I use an Elmer's dot runner in order to tack down the triangulations page to my fabric, and I am tacking down on the heart side because I can actually kind of line it up to get the hearts to go as close to vertical as possible. So as I'm lining this up just a little bit, and I will hold it down. This is not a permanent tack. As you see, it lifts up, but it'll easily release. So I'm not concerned about that tack, and I have put the glue dots in areas that are not going through my sewing machine. No, Nightbot still isn't playing nice. I'm going to have to probably disconnect him and reconnect him. I have no idea what happened. It's recording the chats, Shannon, so I can go back and see the playback, but it's not doing any commands, and I don't know why. But that's kind of lower on the priority list right now. So with triangulations, I am just sewing, reducing my length, just sewing on the lines. It's not a race. It's also, you don't necessarily need to be super slow, but as accurate as you can get on the line, that will be great. Charlotte says, thanks about the glue tape. It works like a charm. I got that from the friend of mine who taught me how to FPP. But he transferred over to the glue stick, and I just don't like the way the glue stick feels. Good morning, Marlene from Southern Cali, who's supposed to get up to 59. But it's a cloudy day, so it's perfect for sewing. That's one of my favorite things to do when I'm talking with my coworkers, and it's one of those cloudy, what most people consider blah days. And I will say, oh, it's a gorgeous day. because it's perfect to be sewing. We don't normally want to be in here sewing when it's a sunny and 75 outside. But we also don't want, or we don't want to be outside when it's rainy or dreary. I also did a little bit with my audios. That's hopefully getting rid of the hissing sound that's been going on. I don't know if anybody's noticed the hissing sound, but I have. So we'll see if that's working. I probably won't really notice until tomorrow when I start editing my weekly vlog. But it's the pains of a new computer. Oh, GuysCraft2 says in Arizona is good sewing day once we pass the 110. Yeah, I would be melting. A friend of mine, he used to live in Phoenix. And the first time I visited him, I believe was Thanksgiving. And I was like, this is perfect weather. Then one year I went and visited him for his birthday the end of April. And it was starting to get a couple days in the hundreds. And I was like, nope, this is not my happy place. I don't care how dry you claim it is. And one year I avoided all the Dragon Con craziness here in Atlanta and visited him for Labor Day. And that's monsoon season. And so it's humid and hot. And you guys have a weird rain. It's a weird rain. So my response to him was, I will only come visit during Thanksgiving from now on. Okay, I have all four of these sewn. Let me get a little bit of space over here. Because as much as I'd love to, I don't have time to sew everything thanks to Percy's appointment. So what I do once it's sewn is the first thing I do is I trim the outside edges of the half square triangles. Put the ruler here. And I don't have a cutting cam yet, so I will show you in a second what it looks like after that. And these are just slivers that I'm pulling off of here. This is the same amount that you would have pulled off if you did the pattern instructions of drawing corner to corner and then cutting them out. Like I said, this is just a slightly different methodology. So again, it's not much slivers. It's the same slivers as would have been in the pattern, or the same amount. And you now have a perfect square. And then what I do is I will sew in half, and then each individual I will cut in half. So that's half of it. And then actually it goes that way just so the words line up. But as I was saying, doing it this way is the same thing as basically doing an X. So that's how I knew that it was able to be done the same way. It's just the way this triangulation pattern is, they're drawing it in a O instead of an X. Yes, please do check out Guys Craft 2. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, Shannon, for sharing your channel for 5 o'clock. Once you have them cut, you just slice them across the center. Shannon is being an awesome Nightbot replacement. So I just took them and I just sliced them in half. And they also have the little lines that tell you where to slice for the dog ears. And I just do this freehand, because as long as you are approximately on the line, it's great. And this is an open version of the half square triangle. I will pull the paper off, so as you see, it's releasing fine. I fold on the crease, and then I start ripping from the center out. Because I'm using newsprint, it tears a lot easier, so even little pieces will tear easier. And if I had my iron on, you would see a perfect half square triangle. Charlotte has been spending her morning doing what I'm doing now. Let me trim off another couple dog ears. The dog ears you don't have to be as specific on, but it is great. The jeans are in the house. Yeah. If I'm doing a large quantity of half square triangles, what I will do is I will get them all essentially cut up to this point. So I have them cut in half. I have the dog ear corners off. And I will take that whole pile and bring them into the living room and just have something on TV and watch as I mindlessly rip these triangles off. Yes, Jackie, triangulations are from Bear Paw Productions. I did not put a link in today's live. I'm sorry. I can do it after the fact because I wasn't thinking that I was doing triangulations. But a couple weeks ago when I did my basically a tutorial of triangulations. I have a link directly to their website, and end up you can purchase it directly from them. You can do it as a download. You can purchase it as a CD, or if you still have a CD drive on your computer. We were talking about that with Sean this morning, that most computers now don't have CD drives, and it drives me batty because we need CD drives for many things. My new computer doesn't have a CD drive, and my laptop that I bought a couple years ago doesn't have a CD drive, which made me realize if I end up retiring my current laptop that I have upstairs, I have no way of ripping my music. So I got to get that figured out before I can retire that. There's a question about glue tape. It's actually glue dots that I use. I put this on the paper before I line it up onto the fabrics so that the paper doesn't shift. You can use a pin. If you are old school, you can use a glue stick. But I also, like I said, I prefer this. It does not stick. I make sure I keep it in the areas of the triangulations patterns that are not going to go through my needle. That way, I don't think it'll gum up my needle, but I don't want to risk it. And now that my iron is heated up, let me see if I can get the couple of these quickly pressed. And just like that, we have a pair of perfect half square triangles. So that's why I like these. And the fun part is we need 16 half square triangles to make the pattern. The Matters of the Heart pattern is a free sew along from Fort Worth Fabric Studio. That I do know is linked in the description below. It's free from them. You can use your own fabric. You can also purchase a kit from them. The kit is like 70 something bucks if I remember correctly. It was reasonably priced. There's not a lot of extra fabric, so please don't cut wrong if you get the kit. Oh yeah, I got a couple more that I have to pull up. Paula says she purchased an external CD drive for hers a couple years ago, but doesn't use it much. I do have a home server that is sitting underneath my TV. It's what I use to rip my movies and TV, my Blu-rays and DVDs. It works great, but I haven't gotten the script written for ripping music, and when I attempted to update my script, it broke. So I just need basically a few hours available so I can update that, and then I can retire my other laptop. But until I do that, I need to find a way to keep my music going, because I still buy CDs. I know a lot of people are on the whole, I want digital music and I'm just going to listen to Spotify or something. But my distaste for streaming services, whether it be music or movies or television, is they get to decide what you want to watch. And if they decide they no longer want to pay for the rights to broadcast, I'm going to say House, because that happened to me. I was watching House on one of the streaming services and it vanished in the middle of me watching season 1. So I could not finish watching it. And that happened with a couple other shows that I've had. I know there's a big fiasco with Star Trek Prodigy from Paramount recently. And I just said, I'll just buy the DVDs and Blu-rays. I may end up be spending more in the long run, but I can watch everything on my time and not risk um, the provider deciding not to have it available anymore. Okay, let's see if I can get this laid out. I'm not going to be able to put the whole thing on my side table, but I could start it. And we will see if my OCD will let me have all of my hearts going the same direction. This goes, no. Yeah, that goes there. Oh, this is off the side. Okay, we'll scooch everything over. So that one goes there. That one is here. The hearts are tossed in any direction, so those don't matter for my OCD. I have a bad feeling that I'm going to be able to do all but a couple of these in the right direction. And then when I go to finish it off, I'm going to have IOCD say, okay, I don't care anymore. That goes there. And that goes there. And I am thinking, as I am putting this together, what I did for all these blocks, I pressed them in different directions. You can't see that. I pressed them in different directions so they will nest in here. So that gets basically everything but the four corners to nest properly. And you would think the four corners don't really matter, but also they may end up going together side by side. And if they do, I need to make sure that they nest. So I pressed half of them going towards the ballerina pink, and I pressed half of them going towards the red. So if they end up going side by side, I want to make sure that my my opposite corners, so that they're going down, that they nest together. So these will nest together. Or if they have to go sideways, that they will nest together. So don't know if that's necessary, but that will get me a little bit better. Yes, Shannon, it's the Elmer's blue dot runner. There is a orange one which is tape runner. I don't know if that releases as easily. I haven't done any tests with the orange, but I have tested with the blue. And it is called Craft Bond. So I've got this laid out. I'm going to pull half the project off my table. Either Shannon has a weird internet connection hiccup happening, or she's just really trying to get my attention. I'm going to blame it on weird internet. So I am going to sew these after I change my foot. Good morning, Sean. It's like I haven't seen you in like 2 or 3 power outages. And I'm going to put my stitch length back to normal. So what I like to do is I will just start chain sewing. For those of you who did not see, I was on Sean's channel this morning. We were sewing up clue 7 of Carnival. I sewed my colorway, which is the Ferris wheel, on with him as we just chit-chatted the morning away. And then this afternoon at 5 on Shannon's channel is going to be the basically the same thing, but with a larger group, and I will be sewing up my sister's colorway on that channel because a lot of folks are doing the Ferris wheel, and I figured we'd get a little bit of what is the word? Variety if I did a different colorway. So now I'm going to pull the left side of my stuff back up on the table so I have it easy access. And these were wrong. I hope I did it right over here. Looks like it. Okay. What happens when you start playing with the fabric and then don't look at it before you take it off? And I do chain sewing just so that I can make sure everything stays in the correct order. And if I was going to do all of these in one sitting, I would end up chain sewing the first column or first 2 columns together like I'm doing for all 8 blocks, and then I would do the second column for all 8 blocks. And then I would press in the middle because I need to press. And then I would sew the 2 columns together so they are still attached to each other. I'll show you how I sew the columns together momentarily. And then I have scraps where I do my leaders and enders. So I know 1, 2, 3, 4 is the left side, and then 4 is the right side. And I can open these up and open these up. And then now I have to decide which way I'm going to press things. Probably going to press the top block to the right. I'll just finger press. the middle block to the left, the third block to the right, and the bottom block to the left. I'm just finger pressing first. And make sure I get the right orders again. So top block to the right, middle block to the left, third block to the right, and then bottom block to the left. And if we do it like this, now I'm thinking differently because again, I don't know how this is going to go together, but I want to try to keep the bulk down. And what I was initially going to do was sew these into a giant column and then figure out what to do with each of these, but I may end up doing these in quadrants, and I will show you why. And this goes back to, if I knew how it was going to happen, then I know that I can do it right. But if these are going to go side by side, I want the seams to still nest because I'm OCD. And if they're not going to go side by side, then what I'm doing is extra. But we will go with what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to sew these into 4 patches. And before I do that, I might as well press them properly. That way they get flat. You could get away with finger pressing, but again, OCD. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do 2 of these just to show you my thought process. You see they're still attached, so I know these are the right pair together. And what I will do is I will line up the center seam, and then I will line up the edge. And after I get it started, that's when I will cut this center seam. And cutting the center seam is going to be important in a moment. Let me get another so that I don't have to break thread. I'm going to laugh in 2 weeks when I see the pattern and find out that all this extra that I did is probably not necessary, but this is also a good method if you have basically a large, I'm going to call it a pixel quilt. Back in October, Fat Quarter Shop Sew Sampler did a giant heart of 5-inch squares, and this was the methodology that would make sure every seam nested correctly. And then I call it quilter's porn on the back when everything just nests. So what happens when you do it like this is you can do something really cool, and it's called spinning the seams. So you see right here, this seam is going this way, and then this seam is coming towards me. So if I press this seam this direction, and if I press this seam in the direction, so make all 4 seams go in the same direction, this center you can kind of pop open, and it'll all lay flat. So let me press this real quick. I'll do that again in a second. Don't worry. Because let me get these pressed, then so let me finish sewing the last two. Trimming the thread between. Good morning, Dale. How are you? So again, it's probably here. We have the top and bottom for me is the left and right for you. Seams going in opposite directions. So as long as I basically twist the center and press the other seam so it's all going in all the same direction. Everything else will seam and nest correctly. And you get a cool little mini patch in the center. Although this one is not acting happy for some reason. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do the same thing on these last two. And this twisting trick normally only works when there's no real pressing instructions. If somebody tells you to press your blocks a certain way in the pattern, you might want to do it as the pattern says. Because a lot of times the pattern designer will have the blocks pressed a certain way to help reduce bulk. So as I'm putting them back together, I've got one more to go. And this trick only works if you have an even number of seams. Or, I'm sorry, even number of pieces. If you're doing a 9-patch block, it doesn't work as well. I use different tricks for that. So I have everything back lined up on here. And the really cool thing is if I And take just these two and I flip them, you see the seams are going to nest. And if I do all of these exactly the same way, when this piece is coming to this piece, the seams are going to nest. So that's how I get every block, if they're going to be going block to block to block to block, to get them to nest. There's a small chance that there's sashing in here, but reading what's needed for week 4, I don't think it's sashed. So, but they also may not be going side by side. So it's one of those, I'm taking a chance, but it's not, it shouldn't deter from piecing together anything else in the future. It's just going to make sure that this block, assuming it needs to be laid next to another block of the same, is going to line up correctly. So I'm going to line these two up together. And then the bottom two together. It is so satisfying when seams nest. And I want to put a huge shout out and thank you to Shannon, because she has been my Nightbot today, posting links here and there for people. So thank you, Shannon. That's above and beyond what you need to do as a moderator, but thank you. I will try to figure out what's going on with Nightbot. And we are treating this as basically a giant 4-patch like we did earlier, where I said the tops were going to the right, although it really doesn't matter, and the bottoms go to the left, or the odd number rows go to the right, even numbers go to the left. And I'm going to press these. Some patterns give extremely detailed pressing instructions. I'm like, yeah, do it however you want. And to me, the lack of pressing instructions suggests we can do it however we want. But I'm trying something fun. So you can see the hearts are going the same direction, at least for this block. We'll see how far they go. And everything is nesting like butter. Wait, eagles. Eagle's nest. Shannon is a very awesome person, not just a sweet little bot. And because we did our pinwheeling all the same way, going through piece to piece, everything should nest up properly. I'm going to trim the middle piece. And speaking of Shannon, I'm very excited that I now have my working printer. So I can work on her Paper Magician, I believe the pattern was called. I'm sitting here trying to remember. That she taught at her and Stephanie's retreat a couple weeks ago. She was an awesome teacher and did it perfectly. So what I'm going to do when I get to this place of the stuff, so you see I've got this pair of seams right here are going one direction. These pair of seams are going the other direction. So I want to put this pair of seams to go this way and this pair of seams to go this way, and the center will pop open like that. So let me get these pressed. If you're really crazy, you can pop every other seam. Like before I press it, let me show you. If you're really crazy, you can put this seam right here to go this direction, this seam right here to go this direction, this seam right here to go this direction, this seam to go right here to go that direction, which really means I should put this seam this direction and this seam this direction, but it doesn't matter at this level. But if you're really crazy, you can do that, and I've done that. And yes, happy birthday, Sean. It was his birthday yesterday. If he was Bill Murray, he would have celebrated about 72 times. And speaking of yesterday, my boss said that there was some news article that they want to replace Punxsutawney Phil with a coin toss because Phil has been wrong like 70% of the time, and a coin toss should be right 50% of the time. But it's called tradition. We want to do it like tradition. So I have them all sewn. And as you see right now, all my hearts are able to go in the same direction. We'll see how far that lasts, like I said. And my seams on the back are pretty well nested. I'm going to have to put a little bit more heat on some of these portions of the seam. Nobody's going to see them after this, so it really doesn't matter what the seams look like. But as long as you get the seams to lay flat, and like I said, because this seam is going this way and this seam is going this way, if these two end up getting butted up to each other, or if this gets butted up to one like it, then I know everything is going to nest and I won't have a bulky portion of the seam where two of these blocks would come together. Most of the time, when you have a situation like this, where two blocks are going to come together, your last horizontal seam you can usually flip open like this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you have that where two seams are coming together, see if you can flip one of them to make them line up just that little bit better. But I am very happy with this block. It's looking gorgeous. I can't wait to see how they come together. We have 8 of them to do this week. Because I'm doing it on a Saturday, I get to spend all weekend working on these. And again, because I use triangulations, it should take me just that little bit less time, I hope, in order to get them all done. And they will look a little bit more accurate, in my opinion. Because like I said, I have all these lined up. I'm not a fan of directional fabric, but we work with what we got to work with. It is now noon. Percy, as I said earlier today, has a doctor's appointment at 1 o'clock. So I have to start getting him ready to like wrangle into the crate and then listen to him complain the entire trip to the doctor's office. And then he's all happy when he gets to go home because he's like, okay, this is all over. I don't have to complain anymore. So I'm going to start working on that. Make sure you check out everybody who is live today. When we were going through this list earlier, Sean has this big giant list. Hopefully, I don't forget anybody, and if I do, I apologize. I know at 1 o'clock, Mom and Pop Quilt Shop is going live. Not sure what they're working on today. Last week was their 6 hours, so I know it's going to be a shorter live. At 5 o'clock today on Shannon's channel, which is different this week because Stephanie is out on vacation. We will be sewing up Clue 7 of the Carnival and all of that and having a lot of fun jibber jabber. I know a lot of folks will do So Yeah this evening at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Eastern. I've had to stop buying from them, so I don't even remember what time they're on. Tomorrow morning, Sean, the guy who sews, ends up putting out his podcast of his weekly stuff that he's been going through. It's got stuff he's been working on and video of his doggos and family and what kind of stuff that they've been doing this week. Tomorrow at 11, my friend Shannon, who, as I said, was really awesome today in here, she does her Sunday brunch. It's always a lot of fun to watch her Sunday brunch, and I get a lot of stuff done while she is on. And then tomorrow at 4, Stephen and Walter go live with Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter. They have a lot of fun on their channel. They start with a topic, and then sometimes people start talking about football and kind of annoy them. So let's talk about football tomorrow, except I don't even know anything about football. And then tomorrow evening at some point, when I get a chance to get the video edited and uploaded, my weekly vlog goes out of all the shenanigans that have happened this week. There's going to be stuff about Riley. I got a couple of awesome, cute little videos of her. I'll get an update on Percy as to what the doc thinks today as he goes to get his arthritis shot. And I'll show an update of all of these blocks put sewn together into the 8 blocks that we need to make and everything else that's going on. So there will be that. And I don't remember if this week is a New York Beauty Week or not on Shannon or Stephanie's channel. I almost feel like it's next week, but it's one of every other week it is that they do the New York Beauty on Tuesday evenings on their channels. And the only reason why I almost think it's this week is because the New York Beauties tend to be on my haircut week. So you can watch on Shannon and Stephanie's channel as to whether or not it is this week or not. But make sure you check everybody else out. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. And until next time, take care.